When I say the word Samoa, what do you think of? Do you think of wonderful beaches, beautiful waters, just having a good, peaceful time? You've never thought of war, maybe? Maybe you never thought of war. Well, surprisingly, there was a Samoan War. Now, to give you some context, the first Samoan War is something that you shouldn't really be bothered about. Basically, it's a bunch of context. How, like, this guy got exiled. So, just to tell you, the king, this used to be all united. And under this guy called Loa Papa, who was the king of Samoa. And when he got exiled, there was a Tamazi tribe, and this guy called, there was like a chief called Tamazi, and he wanted to rule over Samoa. And some Germans backed him, but everyone else pretty much backed Matafa Iosefo, who was another strong Samoan chief. And they fought for a long time. There was a battle here in Vallejo, which you're gonna have to remember because that's gonna be very important as time comes on. And there was a bunch of battles between the two. But most Germany, America, and Britain wanted to keep a monitor on the island because they wanted their own commercial interest in them. And they kept the boats around the island until a cyclone came and wiped out the boats. And so they decided that let's stop this. And so they stopped it, and they restored Laupepa as he was exiled and is usurped, exiled, and they restored him to become a king. And that was the first Samoan War. 9 years later, here's the thing we're talking about. So 9 years later, he died. 9 years later, Laupepa died, and his son, who I believe, let me just check his name 1 second. Yeah, there was this guy. He was the son of Laupepa, was called Prince Tanu, and he was entitled to the throne. However, Iosefo returned on the German warship and claimed it to be his. And there was a lot of fighting, especially in these places I've highlighted. Vallejo was So here's what happened when the German Americans arrived. Iosefo had already taken charge of the capital at Apia. The Americans and British quickly occupied Totila and Manao. There was some resistance at Pago Pago, the capital, the secondary capital, but that resistance was crushed. And then the Americans went on. The Anglo-Americans troops, they came on and they tried to take Apia. They tried to take Falefa. They won the battle and they took Falefa. But at Apia there was a big siege. There was a siege of Apia where Iosefo was sieging Tanu as he was capturing there. The siege eventually led to Iosefo's victory. Prince Tanu escaped, and then the Americans and British fought at Vallejo. They fought at Falefa first. The Germans backed Iosefo. They fought at Falefa, and then they lost that, so they went to Apia, and they fought at Apia, so they lost that. And then they went into guerrilla warfare in Vallejo and Magia? How do you even say that? But they went into hiding in Vallejo. They went into hiding in Magia. And they pretty much they hid out. They did some guerrilla warfare, and eventually in 1899, after a year of fighting, the tripartite convention, I think that's what it's called. But they went to the convention. Basically, this part was German Samoa, and this part was American Samoa, and the British withdrew their interest so they could justify their rights and their interest on Tonga and the Solomon Islands. However, in alternate history, what if Germany and Iosefo did beat American Samoa? Did beat the Americans? Now, let's imagine it's 1898. Iosefo returns, takes power and sieges Apia. Everything going dandy. And back at home, the people they're on Pago Pago, they have to do good there. So let me just highlight: blue is going to be the American owned, and red is going to be German owned. So they probably occupied the Mano Islands, and they do a bit of fighting. Let me just do a highlight. Alright then. They do a bit of fighting, and Pago, the forces managed to hold them back at Pago Pago. Eventually, Tutila is captured. Now we move on to the big Samoa Island. So in the Battle of Falefa, Iosefa and the Germans would need to make one of two choices: either keep sieging Apia, or go and protect Falefa and drive them off. And so the reasonable thing to do, if they went to Falefa, they managed to, they'd probably get Prince Tanu would probably get Apia, and that if they went to Apia, Americans and the British would be able to land and get a front hold. So let's imagine in an alternate timeline they do hold off at Falefa. The forces are split, and they do hold off at Falefa, and they manage to make Prince Tamu surrender. What would happen next? Well, there's no more. And there is no more Prince Tanu. He'll probably be executed of some kind, and the Germans and joint German Samoa forces began driving back the Anglo-Americans past the island. And yeah, there'll be no more battles. Eventually, American Samoa would have to surrender. And yeah, now all this is German owned. There is no more split between the two. There is no more. I just got reverse that because you can't see Pago Pago. There is no more American Samoa. There's no more split down the line. We can erase this now. It's just all Samoa. So all I can just say is just all banter, but it's just all Samoa now. Oops. There we go. It's there's no longer anymore. If I just delete, right? I just need to do a little bit. So yeah, I'll be back in a minute. There we go. I edited all it out, and now we have German Samoa, and we have the islands. Apia would probably be the capital, and we have a secondary capital at Pago Pago, and all the other towns would be populated. But this is now German Samoa. Iosefa becomes king, and Prince Tamu is exiled, just like Iosefa was exiled in the First Samoan War. But now Germans have a stronghold. They have a threshold over this whole place. To the British and Americans, this would be a huge blow because they've lost to such an tiny nation under such a small leader. Yeah. Now the reason I'm talking about this is not just for shits and giggles. The reason I'm talking about this is because of another conflict during the same time that resulted in a victory for the British and of the Americans. But the British, I will talk about that next episode, and I will also talk about like if these both occurred, then how would this like affect the British? Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you all later. Peace.